So this post is coming a little bit late, but I wanted to make a video on it because the end of this week's lesson is that debate, and it is a summative. It's pretty easy if you've completed your note catcher, and if you watch this video, it should make more sense. So you can see right here, I've got my note catcher completed. I've made these different claims, and then I've cited my sources, right? Remember that this is the negative side, that's the positive side. So once you have your note catcher completed, you should start to be able to form an idea of whether or not you feel like globalization is a good or a bad thing. So you've got your completed note catcher. I feel like after researching all of this, that globalization is a good thing. If I look at the bottom of my note catcher, there's 3 questions that are going to help. So number 1, is globalization a good or bad thing for the world? I put globalization as a good thing. Boom, baby. That's my claim for the debate for lesson 3, right? I wrote my claim right here. This second question says, why? What evidence from our resources supports your opinion? So my opinion is that globalization is a good thing. I need to go back to my note catcher and look on the side right here that says pro-globalization and citation, right? Because I'm finding something that says globalization is positive. Right here, I like that this says globalization creates more jobs for developing countries. I feel like that is positive, right? That tells me globalization is a good thing. It creates more jobs for other countries. So I'm going to take this citation because I know this is the piece of evidence I want to use. Globalization in its Great Potential article said that between 1990 and 2010, the number of people living in extreme poverty fell by half as a share of the total population in developing countries. This all thanks to jobs created through globalization. So I actually took this and I copied and pasted it basically for question 2. So what evidence from our resources supports your opinions? Well, according to the article, globalization and its great potential, between 1990 and 2010, the number of people living in extreme poverty fell by half, right? So that I just cited from my note catcher. And then this last thing says, how does that piece of evidence support your opinion? So remember that my opinion is that globalization is a good thing. And then I cited something that talked about the jobs. So in order to talk about my evidence more, I literally went back up to my note catcher and I used this claim right here. This where we said, what is a positive of globalization? That globalization creates more jobs for developing countries. And that is my warrant. How does that piece of evidence support your opinions? Well, globalization gives jobs to people in countries that don't have jobs. I feel like that sentence right there and this piece of evidence right here definitely supports that globalization is a good thing. So you've completed your note catcher. Then you go into lesson 3, debate over globalization. And you post that, right? You look in the comment section and you turn those 3 questions that you just answered into a paragraph. I could literally copy and paste it. Copy, paste. What's my next sentence? Copy, paste. And the last one, copy, and give it a paste. Okay, so if you've completed your note catcher, and then I go back through, right? I want to go back through and make sure that everything's good, everything's the same size. I format it right. I'm probably not going to have blue font. Oh, I don't know how to change it to something else. So whatever, I'm going to leave it blue. That's fine. But you can see right here, this is the first half of that assignment. Globalization is a good thing. That's my claim. According to the article, Globalization and Its Great Potential, between 1990 and 2010, the number of people living in extreme poverty fell by half as a share of the total population in developing countries. This all thanks to jobs created through globalization. Right? So that's my piece of evidence. And then I needed a warrant where I explain why that's positive. And I said globalization gives jobs to people in countries that don't have jobs. Right? So that is the first half of your assignment. You post it. And then what I want you to do is the second piece is to challenge at least one other person's post with a well thought out question. So I've seen a couple of you guys post responses to each other and say like, oh, I agree with you. That's fine, but make sure that you challenge somebody. So you don't want to just say, I agree with you. You want to ask them a thought-provoking question. I'll give you an example. I'm looking at Dane's right here. Dane went and asked Kingston, he read Kingston's response, that globalization could be good for unemployment and poverty, and it's bad because people could lose their jobs. And then Dane asked him, how is globalization good for poverty? And why is it bad that people could lose their jobs? So Dane is asking King, hey, back that up a little bit, right? You said that it's good for poverty, but you didn't support it with a piece of evidence. So could you give me a piece of evidence? And that's all you have to do to get a 3. You got to challenge somebody and then make that post. If you want a 4, you can respond to somebody's challenge. So say that Kingston decided that he was going to prove to Dane that globalization was good for poverty. So he could go back to his note catcher and say, well, Dane, globalization is good for poverty because according to Globalization and Its Great Potential, it said that between 1990 and 2010, the number of people living in extreme poverty fell by half. Right? And this is all thanks to jobs created through globalization. That's the 4, right? If Kingston can respond to Dane and say, well, Dane, this is how globalization is good for poverty, right? So that I wanted to give you a little more clarification on that. The other thing I want to tell you is that if you already posted an argument post, please go back and check it. I have graded some of the ones that you've put in. And what I'm noticing is that a lot of you are forgetting to cite your evidence or you're not completing the entire assignment. So watch this video. And then I need you to go back in and fix your comment, edit your comment, right? So that it has all of the pieces. It has that claim. It has that piece of evidence. And then it has that warrant, okay? If you need help, reach out to me. I'll help you format that. But you guys have to take the responsibility to reach out to me, okay? All right, I miss you. Hopefully this helps.